Yes, good afternoon. I am Miguel Santiago with the Goshen Chronicles. I have the privilege to interview my friend and longtime friend, I should say, Sandra Rodríguez-McMasters. How are you, Sandra?
Hi, Miguel. Good afternoon to all the audience of the Chronicles of Goshen. It's very exciting to be here and just trying to share with you, my points of view, and also for those who don't know me, get to know me a little bit more. So thank you for having me.
No, our pleasure. And we did have an interview in Spanish, but we think that it's just fair that since you are running for public office, that you have the opportunity to address the English-speaking audience, and that's the reason why we're here. On the Hispanic side of things, we're very proud that you're running for office. I think the Hispanic community, we are ready to start, being more represented or be better represented, I want to say. Not that we're not represented, but I think that there are some issues that as Hispanics, we would like to have our voices heard. And I think that your journey, and that's where I would like to start, reflects the journey of immigrants. Some of the immigrants that come to the United States, specifically to Goshen. You came here, I don't know how long ago, but you'll walk us through your journey. You went back to school. You're working as a professional today. You're an example of what I want to call a woman that fights for her life, for her family, and you're doing extremely well. And thank you for coming here. I met you about 20 years ago, and we were both working at a local radio station. And 20 years later, you're running for public office. And so tell us how that journey feels like, what you like about the United States, Goshen, and tell us how you've been making the journey that you have today.
Well, it wasn't too long before I came here because, yes, you're right, we met around 20 years ago. So I got here on April 4th, or April Fools in 1998. So
98.
I've been here for 25 years.
Wow.
So when I got here, it was, like many of you know, the culture shock. Not necessarily the English barrier, because in Mexico, middle school and high school, we get to learn some English. I remember myself asking many questions. How do you say this? And how do you say that? And sometimes I would point at things. And I knew at that time that I needed to learn English. So I got my free library card and I got some books. So I learned that it's not necessarily about translating. And so instead, I was just learning how to say good morning or how to greet somebody in the English language. And at the time, I was still a teenager. I was 19, so I wanted to say, ¿Qué onda?
Right.
And of course,
how do you translate that? Right?
What a wave.
Right.
What a wave. And
you would translate that as what's going on, right?
What's going on? What's up?
Right.
And so, I wanted to still continue to, speak like a teenager and be like I was in my home country, but down the road you learn that it's there are stages as immigrants. Like either you isolate with your own community and you stay as it is. A lot of our people perhaps have 20 or more years and they still speak Spanish only, right?
They haven't learned how to speak English.
Right. And so that's the isolation. In my experience, I assimilated as in this culture. So I learned English. And a few years later, I met my husband. We have 2 daughters. And so because I know how important education was and it still is for us and for for anyone that wants to grow and take the opportunity of this country. So I try to focus on raising my kids, but educate them at the same time. So I was learning as they were learning as well. Sometimes I remember they had homework and I didn't know how to resolve like simple math. So I was trying to teach my kids how I learned how to do multiplications, for example. Mm-hmm. And my daughter will look at me and say, that's not how my teacher taught me. So I will write a broken English note to the teacher and explaining, please, let me know how I can help my daughter. If you can explain the procedure, so I can assist my daughter at home. So it was a struggle, but at the same time, I was involving myself with the community.
You stay engaged during that whole process.
Mm-hmm. And so because my kids were also, I think I learned the culture of the schools because they were always sending out notes for volunteering. And I'm like, oh, I can get to watch the kids while they're in the playground. Okay, I'll volunteer. So I will come to the school and watch the kids for recess and learn with them and learn what it was like to go in recess in wintertime, because I had to pack them their snow boots, their snow suit and jacket and scarf and gloves and all of that. And I'm like, okay, this is new. But see, then I didn't got any of that. But I was watching how my kids were growing. I remember my youngest daughter was in second grade. And I was visioning myself because, when I got here, I work in a manufacturer. Okay. So I got that experience that I didn't know English, but I learned enough English to communicate with my coworkers. So I knew the tool names, the hammer, screw gun, all the air tools, because I was at an assembly line. And so I knew that wherever I go, I needed to learn enough to succeed in the environment. Mm-hmm. So I had to quit my job because I wasn't seeing much fruits from that. But I said, okay, if I cannot make the American dream come true, at least my kids should. Yeah. So that was my focus. I set aside all my goals or any ambitions that I would have. So I focus on my kids. I enroll them in sports and orchestra and any programs in the summer, you name it, my kids were there.
Oh, good.
And I enjoy it. So when my youngest daughter was in second grade, I thought to myself, so my youngest daughter is going to be out of the home and in college. What am I going to be doing? I know I'm not a person that stays home. I'm always on the go. And I didn't see myself working 8 plus hours in a factory floor. So I said, what if I go back to school? What if the challenges I'm putting in my kids, I take them? Because at the time I was saying, all you have to do is go to school. And that's something that our community doesn't sometimes take into consideration, because at the same time, it's not as easy as you just going to school. It's also you're going to school and you're facing a lot of issues with your classmates, or try to think why I don't look like my peers or things like that. Mm-hmm. Why my parents don't come to my games, right? Because a lot of the times, if it's a baseball game, soccer game, you name it, our children don't see us there. Yeah. Because where we're at.
We're working.
But the kids don't know that because we don't communicate that most of the times. And so they take sort of, it could be resentment or, because we don't talk to them, we don't communicate. Yeah. But in their hearts, I don't care, or my parents don't care enough for me because they're not here. And they see their peers' parents are always cheering for them, bringing snacks for the team and all of that. And they don't know how to make sense of that. So anyways, fast forward, I went back to school because I work with the Communities Relation Commission, and this commission is basically in charge of hearing the voices of everyone and promote diversity within Goshen. So when I was able to organize this event, I understood that we can come to one table and share what we have in common. We have countries from, Ukraine, Palestine, Bolivia, Mexico, South America, but also the international students from Goshen College, they also shared their gastronomy. And that's something that we can, if we take that pattern, that we can sit at a table and share what we have in common, We can do great things.
Yeah.
But we need to be able to listen to each other.
Yeah.
And so that's how I learned that I could do more than just organize a community event. I could do more than just sit at a table. So how important is our voice to be heard and to have a saying when we have to take decisions in the local office.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was just a homemaker. So I asked people in the community, I don't know anything about what careers I could take in the United States. So I started to do research. So the process took about 3 or 4 years because I had to request my transcripts and I had to apply for scholarships. And so I started college in 2015 and I graduated in 2019 with a bachelor's in social work from Goshen College. And even though I was struggling mentally because it was a lot of pressure.
I imagine.
Yes.
You had a full-time family to take care of and plus school and wow.
Plus school and this is very funny, but it's true. And you can go to the Goshen library and ask the librarians. I literally lived there. At 8 a.m. it's like if I had a punch card or a time card. At 8 a.m. I will get there and I only leave to go to my classes. But then I'll come back between classes. And on the weekends, the same thing. I believe that they extended the night hours just because I was there. They always had to kick me out at 11. So they extended 1 more hour at midnight.
That's
even
amazing.
Even then,
That's amazing.
I will walk to the computer lab because that was open 24/7. But I have to use my card to be there. And I will leave 2 or 3 in the morning. It was a handful of adults that we met there because we were doing our work, schoolwork or research, but it was tough. It was tough.
Wow. So you graduated from Goshen College in 2018, you said?
19.
And where are you working today? What's your profession? What did you decide to do with what you studied?
So social work, you can practice it at an individual level, meso or macro. So individual, right now I'm a child and adolescent therapist at Oakland. And it's very interesting because I started backwards in the profession. So macro is basically doing the community work and also try to impact policies that will protect people that is vulnerable. You will call it single mothers, homeless, low-income people. And so who's going to advocate for those people and how can we do it in an effective way? Sometimes it has to be changing policies. So that's, even though I wasn't doing that much, I was already doing community work. So right now I'm doing micro interventions, just working with individuals and families.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations on graduating from college. It seems like it was a lot of work, but you made it. And now you are running for city council at large for Goshen. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you were the first Hispanic woman running for that office. Is that correct?
You are completely correct, yes. And I will also like to go a little bit back on history. So Julia King is the first woman elected for the seat at large. And right now, after 2 terms, she's basically resigning. She's not gonna run for that seat. And that's where I and Linda Gerber want to run for not only that seat, but both. And 4 years ago, Gilberto Perez was running for city council. He represents District 5, but he's also ending his term. And so we have the 2 first women and first Latino. So to be elected, I will be the first women immigrant at an large.
Yeah, and let me also, if I may classify, there's a first generation immigrant, which I think puts you in a different category because you came here really not knowing English. You had to start from the bottom again, and you had to recraft your life and rebuild your life. And, this is the representation of the immigrant's life, right? A lot of them come here and they have to start all over. Some of the careers they studied back in their homeland is no longer valid here. We have people, recently came from Venezuela, from different places. They have doctorate degrees. They're lawyers, accountants, but they have to start from the bottom. In our previous interview, we talked about the demographic group of the Hispanic population and what that represents as far as growth for not just our community in Goshen, but also the United States and also the place where the Hispanic community is right now. So most of the first generations of immigrants, I came here back in 1996. Initially, most immigrants come with one plan, and that plan was to come here, maybe stay here for 2 or 3 years, work for a little bit, save some money, then go back to our countries and just kind of put a business or build your house and go back home, right? But that plan hasn't really worked that way. The children of that first generation have grown up here. While being here, we discovered that we actually want to stay here. We like it. And sometimes, a lot of family members also migrated to the United States. And so I have friends that really have nothing left, no family left. They have houses and they have properties, but all their family has gone either to Canada or to Europe or have come to the United States. And so I think, and this is my perspective, that first generation, those generations that came here in the 90s, are finally now making up their minds about, I think we want to stay here. Our children are born here. Now they're United States citizens. And we actually want to be represented. We want to take part in this conversation. Not that we have been neglected, really. I don't feel that personally, but I think that we haven't taken a spot at the table that you're talking about, which is, hey, I became a U.S. citizen 2 years ago, precisely for this reason, because, I didn't think it was needed for me to become a U.S. citizen. I could come in and out of the country with no problem, but then, wait a minute, I can't exercise my right to vote until I become a U.S. citizen, so let's do that. And a lot of more people, Hispanics, are making that choice and integrating completely and participating into our democracy. So I think that you and other people that are running for public office on the Hispanic side are very important people at this moment, because it's the first attempts from that generation to say, hey, we want to be part of this. We want to, take part of the community and build it and have a say into what's happening here in town. So city council at large. A lot of people might not know what a city council does. Would you walk us through that?
So the city of Goshen is fraction in 5 districts, voting districts, because it could be fraction in different ways, but voting districts, there are 5. And the city council is also represented by 5 people. So each councilor is representing 1 district, but the councilors at large represent all 5 districts. So that's the difference. And they basically take the decisions of, okay, there's a proposal for this business that wants to establish, I don't know, tortillas, let's say, right? Like a huge maker of tortillas. But if that's going to be conflicted with the location for the neighbors around it, they have the voice to come and say, you know what, it's not going to be a good idea because A, B, C, and D. And I think that a good city council will listen to their constituents, and so that could be read. I think the proposals are read 3 times, and the procedure is going to be learned for all of us that are running, but it's basically how the council works. They take the decisions of not just that, but also the roads, how business are taxed and stuff. So I think those it's important because
big choices to make.
Yeah.
That's excellent. So tell the audience why should the people of Goshen vote for you?
I think that my experience with being able to listen to all people, building relationships. And I think for me, like I emphasized before, public office is not just being sitting in the council when they have these meetings, but also is representing the people that voted for you. And in the past, I experienced that people would say, I will listen to you. And as a person that once was behind those that are voting on making decisions on my behalf, the reality is that we're forgetting about the working class. We're working the people who are working 8+ hours in the factory, and they are exhausted. They don't have the opportunity to come to these city council meetings. So instead of, how am I going to listen to these people if I'm not reaching out to them? So I think because I was in that spot before, and I wanted to be heard, but I didn't know where to go. Nobody will come to me. So I think strategically, I will come. If you visit my website, I think it's up and running already. One of my goals is to actually attend to the neighborhood associations meetings, be involved in the community events, because that's where people gather.
Yeah.
And be there, make a presence for these people, because that's when we engage in conversations. Mm-hmm. Because if you expect that people will come X Monday from 6 through 7 or 8 to make sure that their voices or to share their concern, perhaps it's not gonna happen, because another factor it could be somebody that is not able to get out of their home.
Yeah.
So, there are ways that I could be reaching out to people. Mm-hmm. And so listen to them. It's very important, but I think reaching out to them.
Yeah. So communication both ways of what's happening here in the city decisions with the, all the constituents, but specifically your contribution would be to the Hispanic community that kind of has been on the side, not be very engaged onto these meetings and what's happening and all that. That's good. Where do you see Goshen now? Where would you like to see Goshen now in 10 years? I mean, we Hispanics, we are, again, and I kind of don't like to segregate and say Hispanics and Anglos or whoever. Mm-hmm. We really want to be one community. We want to be part of, the big family. Yes, we might look different. We might speak with a little accent here and there. But at the end, it's looking at our eyes, eye to eyes at, the human level. We're all humans. We all want the best for the little town Goshen, and we want it to thrive. But what do you want to see Goshen like?
I think that's the expectation, that we can have that ability, when we can set aside our differences and put forth what we have in common. However, we need to be realistic as well.
Yes, I agree.
You mentioned something very important. So when I came here, my father had lived here for about 8 years already. And so his reality or his experience might have been different than mine.
Yeah.
And so is my children's.
Yeah.
So they are the ones who are claiming and demanding and wanting to say, I am an American.
Yes.
With their American peers. And because they're not afraid to say that.
Yeah.
And they are the ones that are speaking up right now. So I can have a vision for Goshen, but I think that could be overwritten by our children, those that want to take charge of their civil right, which is voting for those who are going to voice their opinion, for those who they were once silenced.
Yeah. I think on my perspective is that we have an opportunity to start practicing the democracy that we haven't been practicing, at least on the Hispanic side. Again, we've been kind of on the shadows, kind of keeping a low profile, but I think it's time to come out of the shadows. I think it's time to engage into politics. I think it's time to have difficult conversations. Those conversations usually start with immigration, what to do, the condition, the world condition, we're talking about economics, we're talking about geopolitical changes in the world. These are difficult conversations, and there are for sure different points of view. And I think that people like you and me, perhaps, we have a particular point of view because we are first generation immigrants. I came here when I was 16 years old. I love my country. Mexico is a beautiful country. However, I wouldn't go back to live in Mexico, and that's the reality. That's my opinion. And there are many like us, many people that have already a life here. But we have been struggling from, well, I'm here, but I wasn't born here. And my country is back there, but I really don't want to go there. And so it's a commitment. It's like getting married, right? It's like, no, I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to participate. I'm going to engage, and let's do it. So by you taking in this, I'm very proud of you, Sandra, because you are you're a woman, and you're taking the steps. You're not afraid. You move, you go, you conquer. You do your best to represent. You've worked with the community for so many years, representing little small groups that solve problems, internal problems, and you've been doing that for years. And as I was mentioning in our last interview, at this moment, I think that as Hispanic, we need to start getting into politics. We need to be active in our democracy. We need to start educating our friends and families into how to participate, how to come to the table, because the place is there. And I think our family, the Anglo community, I'm going to say that, they are ready for us to participate, but they're not going to force us into running for public office. I mean, somebody has to make the choice and say, you know what, nobody wants to do this. I'm going to do it, right?
Correct.
And I'm going to speak my voice. And yes, we might think differently, and that's okay. This is a democracy. We don't have to all think the same. It's a matter of debates, reasoning, and then come to conclusions. So anything else you want to take our audience before we finish?
I think, thank you. I always think that there's always going to be someone, and I don't have any doubts that there's someone out there, perhaps with a better ability than I have, with a better background than I have. But it takes courage. Yeah. I might not know all the answers. I might not be the solution for the problems we have as a city. But I know I will figure it out. I will do my best. And I think by showing how hard I can work to make things work, I think that speaks a lot.
I agree. You are not a born politician.
I'm not.
You are a mother that cared a lot for her daughters and wanted to do her best for them, and you focused on that and just followed that path until they graduated, and then you decided for yourself, and then you build your career. You're being a professional. Now you're getting into politics. That's we all want to see good stories like that. They are inspiring. There are many women out there looking at you saying, well, she can do it. I can do it too. And that's the magic of, a life and being a pioneer and a leader, getting things done first. And, I appreciate your thoughts about, you might not be the one, but, somebody has to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And it takes courage to do that. So congratulations on that.
So for those that want to know more about me, visit my Facebook page, send me a message. I'm very approachable. If you see me in downtown, I'm a person. I mean, I shop locally. I always encourage my kids to know where to spend their money, because it's also important to know, am I want to be contributing, making a CEO richer, or I want to contribute with my local neighbor, investing in their business so they can send their kids to college.
Yes.
Small little steps make a huge difference. And I think I'm not the only one who thinks so. And I know that there's a lot of people who also wants to see good changes and improvements, because we're neighbors. At the end of the day, they are living right next door. We're living next to your doors. And so let's become neighbors.
Yes. Yes. So if I may add to that, Hispanics, we're not going to go anywhere. We're becoming U.S. citizens. Our children are growing here. We're the fastest demographic population growing in the United States. It's just a matter of time. So I think that on one end, we need to practice democracy. We need to be engaged into voting, into finding out what's happening with city decisions, making sure that we have people that represents our cause. But at the same time, if you win, you'll be representing everyone.
It's correct. And I want to emphasize that. I'm not just because I'm an immigrant and just because I am bilingual and Hispanic or Latina or however labels somebody else want to put on me, I will be representing everyone. And I think I've shown that I have that ability to not just listen, but also to outreach and to be able to identify what needs people have and work together so those needs can be met.
Awesome. This is the Goshen Chronicles. We are bridging the gap, the bilingual, bicultural gap. We want to include the opinions of those who have not been heard in the past. And it takes courage, Sandra, to start something new like this, like your career, like the Goshen Chronicles, because we want to be inclusive of all the different opinions that are not in mainstream media. And so you will help us a lot by sharing this video. I feel very proud to have my friend Sandra here and having her tell us her story and for what she's running for. We ask that you share this video because if you do so, you will help us make sure that everyone listens to her story. Make sure that visit her Facebook page, call her if you have any questions. She's launching her career as a politician a little bit. We can call that as a public servant. Let's just call it that. Public servants, right?
Yeah,
sounds a lot better than...
To me, it's I identify more with that, but if people are viewing me as a politician, as long as I'm doing my job...
It just sounds dirty to call somebody a politician, right?
I don't get offended. I mean,
right.
You know, how will you call somebody that is painting the outside of your house? Right. A painter, right?
Right. So share this video. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you click that like button. Again, my friend Sandra Rodríguez-McMasters, running for City Council at large in the city of Goshen.
Thank you very much, Magdiel, for having me. It's an honor always visiting this stage.
My honor, our honor. Well, have an excellent weekend. You take care, and please, again, don't forget to share our videos. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.